You might wonder where this podcast is going, but it's all about manifestation, and I actually think it's quite relevant. The whole aspect of manifestation is something that we all strive for. It's the ability that things go our way, that things happen just a little bit easier. And oftentimes, you might say that the universe is helping you. Now, some people may feel that this is a little woo-woo, but then again, sometimes we do need the universe to help us. And there have been many books over the years, including The Secret, which has sold multi-millions of copies, and people obviously embraced it. But let's delve a little bit deeper. Now, of course, we're going to tie this in a bit with breathing and the autonomic nervous system. So I'm joined with Nicola O'Neill, and she just lives down the road in Barna, County Galway, beautiful part of the country. So you're very welcome, Nicola.
Thanks very much, Pat. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I know this subject is a little bit different from your what you teach. And congratulations as well on your anniversary. I saw that you are, is it 20 years on
Yeah,
St.
you
Patrick's
set up
weekend?
20,
Wow.
23 years, Paddy's week, Paddy's Day, actually. So in
Oh,
2002, on the 17th of March, I opened up an office in Galway. Now, I've since moved, but I'm still here. Yeah.
congratulations.
Thanks. All going well. It's 22 years, or 23 years, which have passed pretty quickly, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. Well, please God, in another 23 years, I'll be as famous and as popular as you, Pat,
Oh,
doing
no,
as
I don't know.
successful.
I won't even go there, but yeah. So Nicola, I'd love to start because just for people who mightn't be, is there a simple way of describing what manifestation is?
There is actually, we manifest our lives every day, Pat, because manifestation is all about our mind and our thoughts and directing it to what we want. So we start a manifestation by simply even thinking of what are we going to have for dinner this evening. And everything starts with a thought. So once you put the thought in place of what will I eat later on, then it's usually attached to a feeling of if the weather is cold, you say to yourself, I may feel like I'm going to have something warm to eat this evening because it's cold. Or if the weather is nice and hot, you'll say, you know what, we'll have a salad or a barbecue because it's so warm. So you start with the thought in the morning of what will we have later on. And like that, if the weather is good, you say we'll have a barbecue and you plan it and you go to the supermarket and you buy the ingredients and then you have a barbecue. And that's manifestation in very simple terms. We manifest with our thoughts every day because we are actually creative beings. So everything begins with a thought and then it's attracted to a feeling. So these are all tied in with what's known as the universal laws. And some people may be aware of them and some people may not be. But whether we're aware of these universal laws that surround us, they affect us every day in every way. And the main ones that we would probably be slightly aware of would be karma, which is the law of cause and effect. And the next one then would be the law of attraction, that what we think with our minds, we attract, like attracts like. So these would be the main two laws that people would be slightly aware of. But these are actually very much tied into manifestation because our mind, everything starts with a thought. So when we start thinking and directing where we want to go, just like the barbecue in the afternoon, but we put it into bigger things when we want to, we'll say, change our career or we want to relocate to a different country. It all has to start with the thought. And once you realize that there's a power in our thoughts, and when we can direct that power or energy, then we can literally manifest what we want into our lives. But it's all about learning to control your thoughts, which is connected to the law of attraction, which is all around us, that we attract what we think because we're all literally energy and our thoughts are energy and they're connected to this outer energy, which is the same laws as gravity. It's all around us and it's here, whether we know it or not, or we like it or not. We all know the gravity is there. And it's the same with the law of attraction. It's the same with karma, that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And it's the same. Then there's another law which sits underneath the law of attraction is the law of vibration. And the law of vibration, scientists have discovered more and more that we are vibrational beings, and that this vibration is also very much sits under the law of attraction. So because we are a vibrational being, this is where our thoughts, if they're positive or negative, really affect our emotions. And I teach all of this in a number of classes. It takes a number of weeks to understand it, because it can be very far out from our, we'll say, linear thinking on how this all affects us. But once you understand it and you start putting it into practice, you will start seeing amazing changes in your life. And this is not new. Like, this is going back from Louise Hay in the 80s to Dr. Wayne Dyer in the United States, back as far as when I came across the first book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, Dr. Joseph Murphy. He was back in the 1960s, who used to lecture in America, because there was a movement in the early 1900s called the New Thought Movement. And it was when they discovered that literally by directing your energy or your thoughts to a specific thing or goal that you want, you can attract it. But it comes with like a change of life. It's not just, let's just focus on that and we get it. You need to tune into it. And by doing that, you have to realize what we do is we literally unblock our chakras, because some people say to you, oh, I've tried that manifestation and it doesn't work. But it does work when you know how to do it properly. And it's all connected with our energy, because your thought is an energy, just like even what I'm speaking here, your word is a thought expressed, is energy. So when we have positive energy, positive vibrations, we attract the positive manifestation, because everything is energy.
In some ways, like many of the listeners, I think we've all had some personal experience with this, but may not have always been consciously directing it. You know, I can remember in my early 20s, it's a time that you do typically set goals. You know, you want to do the best and to achieve the best that you can achieve in life. And one of my objectives was to get a job that I love to do. I wanted to live in a beautiful area, to meet the right partner. I wanted not to have stress over finances, all just normal goals that people had. But at the time, I was in a job that I absolutely hated. And I felt that I thought about the job and give out about the job in my head, because I hadn't come into breathing at that point. I was very much stuck in my thinking and stuck in my head all the time. And I felt that nothing seemed to go my way back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I only wrote about it recently in a book. It was about insomnia, but I was talking about the whole stillness of the mind aspect. And I felt that when I started bringing breathing into my way of life and quietness of the mind into my way of life, things happened easier. So my question is, just in a very tangible way, would it be possible that if people are really, really stuck in their head and overly thinking and anxious and having repetitive thoughts, that it doesn't necessarily help in terms of them achieving their goals? Is that a bit obvious?
No, absolutely. You're correct. And this is where the breathing and meditation is actually very much connected, and mindfulness into manifestation as well. Because when your automatic nervous system is on the, rest and digest, when we do a meditation, we breathe nice and easy, which you're the expert in, how to just calm ourselves down, we are then far more in control of our thoughts when you're in the relaxed state. So when you start your day, and any of the yogis, any of spiritual teachers will all recommend that you start your day with a little bit of meditation. And the benefits of that are fantastic for the rest of the day, because now you can control your thoughts. And when you learn how to control your thoughts into a positive thought, you are attracting positive energy into you. So when you're in that relaxed state, it will make everything flow better, because you can now learn how to respond rather than to react. So it's the scenario of the ambulance when I'm explaining in a class. When an ambulance comes out to a scene that's chaotic, they are not roaring and shouting and saying, "Oh my God, what am I doing? This is crazy." They come out and they respond. They say, "We stop the traffic here. We need another ambulance. We need the fire brigade. We need it," in a response way. And your day can be very much in that nice, relaxed response rather than reactive. And when you learn how to control your thoughts from a negative to a positive and to stop, because when you're in the negative, it spirals down and it keeps going. And one thing leads to another, and you have the domino effect that you're going down all the time. But by the simple way of starting your day with nice relaxation, and then I give exercises to how do you become aware of your thoughts? Is it positive or negative? So I'll give you on the class during the week, I'll say, right, this week we're going to focus on, let's say you're caught in traffic and you have to get to a really important meeting. And you feel if you don't get this meeting that you're either going to lose your job or you're going to lose the client, etc. It's really important. And if you're in traffic and you're delayed, what's your thought process? Is it, "Oh my God, why didn't I leave earlier? Am I blaming my wife for not waking me up? Is it everybody else's fault? Or am I giving off about the traffic? Am I giving off about the cops, etc., etc., etc.?" You are now on a downward spiral of negativity. And when you arrive at that meeting, if you're late, because your intention and your expectation is negative, that's the response you're going to get. But if you are in traffic and you start realizing that you're in the negative, you learn, "Oh my God, okay, I need to change this to everybody else is going to be late. Of course, the people that I'm going to, they're going to understand because there's a traffic jam and we're all in it together. So when I get there, they're going to be nice and understanding. And this is my intention." And then because the power of our thought, this is what we will manifest. So you will learn that literally by having positive thoughts, we attract positive people, positive situations into our life. If you expect the negative, you're going to get the negative because your thought is energy. It's a wavelength, like we're like a broadcasting station. So if you have a positive thought, it goes out into the atmosphere and it brings back positive energy. This is where you get the like attracts like scenarios. People, birds of a feather flock together. People who think the same end up in the same areas through the law of attraction. And if you have a negative thought, it's negative energy, and you attract negativity into your life. And basically, that is the concept of it. And when you learn to control your thoughts to a positive, then you start manifesting positive situations back into your life. And it works in very simple ways. So I would teach people like that we start your day with, even as I say, the quiet mind. Not everybody is into meditation and they find it sometimes very difficult and they find it, "Oh my God, my thoughts are in and out and I'm thinking I have to be there and I'm looking at the watch." If you can just sit and just start by being quiet, quiet mind gets things done. Because when you can learn to just quiet your mind, do your nice bit of breath work, brings the whole your nervous system down to that rest and digest. You start your day on a positive energy, and then you can be literally aware of your thoughts during the day. Another thing I will always recommend is we do gratitude because of the positive energy. When you're in a state of gratitude, you're in a state of being so thankful for things, you're now flipping your mind into the positivity of the wavelength. So then more positivity will come into your life and you'll start seeing things more positive rather than the negative and be grateful for them. I also teach affirmations. So if you are in the traffic and you feel you cannot change your mind, like what you teach, if you can just take the breath nice and easy. And then I am a great fan of Louise Hay, where I say all of out of this situation only good will come. Everything is working out for my highest good. We learn what's called go-to affirmations and they quiet the mind that bring you down to that relaxed state, and you realize if this is out of my control, it's out of my control. And when you start doing these things in a nice habit every day, the change and transformation in your life, Pat, is phenomenal. And the reason I teach it and the reason I got into this, I'm now a spiritual teacher, is because my own life was in chaos a number of years ago. And I thought, how am I ever going to get out of this? And I was blessed when I got a copy of The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. And that was, I had a spiritual awakening. It opened the door. And now I've been 3.5 years full-time studying science of mind, and it is life-changing.
For somebody with, so let's just, if I just bring it back a small bit, so say, for example, we are stuck in traffic and people are starting to feel very tense and their heart rate is increasing and they're sitting on the guy's bumper in front of them and they have a lot of thought activity going on. A lot of people don't even realize what they are thinking about and how that thinking is fueling their emotions. So are you saying, Nicola, just even to get into a habit, not necessarily when things are going wrong, but when things are going okay, and just step back a little bit and just ask yourself the question, what am I thinking about right now? And is this thinking helpful or is this thinking unproductive or negative, as you say? Is that something that people should be bringing into their way of life?
Yeah, and what I do is I ask them, I give them a sheet, a worksheet, and then in the evening to journal and say, okay, was my thinking positive or negative when I was in the good situation, the bad situation? How was my thoughts throughout the day? And when you learn how to become aware of your inner dialogue on what we are, everybody has their own self-talk. Once you start becoming aware of it, because people like to actually say, no, I'm actually very positive, I'm not negative, because we're not aware of those thoughts. Just like you said, when we're in a situation, we're not even aware of what our thinking is. We're going around, we're so busy all the time. And, you know, there's so much with the phones and media and radio, and there's always noise. Like even when you're in a hotel lobby, there's noise, there's music, there's, you know, so it drowns out our thinking, but our thinking is going on. So it's becoming aware of it. And then it's realizing if it's very negative, you need to change it because you are manifesting. So, for instance, even, you know, if we get a bill in the door and we start, you know, giving off about it, or we're giving off about this, or you're in a restaurant, you're giving off about the meal, that's all negativity. So you are actually manifesting more of that because the universe is always listening. These laws are always on. It's like gravity, it's never off. So when you're giving out these vibrations and these wavelengths, because we're all energy, then that's what's coming back. So it's what goes out comes back, which is the law of cause and effect, karma. What we give out comes back. So when you learn to have positive thoughts, positive energy through these laws, you will start seeing transformation in your life. And the breathing is a big part of it, that if we can start our day with the relaxation and throughout it. And once you have that, then you can start controlling your thoughts because you're in that relaxed state. So the manifestation and meditation are interly connected.
And it's not that you're going to be a pushover. I got a bill in yesterday for €3,022 for my ESB, electricity, yeah? And I was thinking, okay, this is something out of the ordinary here. This is way higher than what it should be. And I rang them up and I dealt with it. But you're saying it's okay to deal with it. That's not necessarily being negativity. It's when that bill absolutely overconsumes you. And it's almost that you're becoming so emotionally involved with it that that's where the issue is, because that's not just going to affect you in that situation, but that's going to wash into other aspects of your life as well. So not for us to become a walkover.
Absolutely. But when that bill came in, it's about being able to respond rather than reacting. So you were able to respond to it in the way that you dealt with it. But when we overreact, we go into a whole negative spiral and we start giving off and we start. So what you're doing is you're just creating more of that. Whereas if you deal with it nice and calmly, and it teaches you to accept the things that you can control, and what you can't control, you just accept it, you know?
I'm just thinking about somebody, it may not come so natural to many of us, okay? So say, for example, somebody does see red and they kind of fly off the handle. But maybe at the start they kind of notice it, and then they start to realize, yeah, I'm after flying off the handle here. It's really after
Mhm.
impacting me. I'm feeling stressed over it. My emotions now are feeding my thinking, and it's a vicious circle. They're still going to make some progress, even if it's not going to be perfect. Would you agree?
I agree, but what you can do then is if you journal about that and find, why did I react? What is in my subconscious mind that gave me that reaction? So I'll give you an example in my own life. My teenage son was off school recently, and I had a very early morning start at 6 a.m. And at 11 o'clock at night, he was still banging, and there was a PlayStation going, and I had told him to be quiet. So the following morning, I had a word with him when I met him at 12 o'clock, and I said, I said, you were very loud last night. And I was very calm because I was very aware of my thoughts. That was great. The following day, I had a meeting again very early, and I had a repeat performance that the banging was even louder, right? So the following morning, I was up before him, and I said to myself, I'm not going to fly. I'm going to have a nice, calm conversation. And when he came down, I exploded. And I knew I was. And I was after it angry at myself that I let myself get angry at him for being loud at night again. It's like 2 nights in a row after I had the conversation with him. So that evening, I went in my journal and I was like, okay, why did I react in this manner so upsettingly? And I was able to discover, because it was one of my belief systems back from my subconscious mind. When I was young, we had a public house, and when I would be woken late at night from people with, alcohol and loudness and all of that, that it used to make me angry as a child, especially if when I'd school in the morning. So that was there in my subconscious mind of what I still need to deal with, and that sparks me. And when we find what are those little belief systems that are there that spark us, then we can deal with it. And then we deal with that then through an affirmation and write about it and journal about it. And it literally will. So for the next time it'll happen, I'll be able to know the why. And once we know the why, we can then literally change this to say, I know why I feel this way. And you won't do the reaction, you'll have the response.
Is there something else going on with journaling? I've never done it, to be honest with you. We've had an instructor here, Tom Heron, and he was staying with us. And he was waking up in the morning and he'd be literally just scribbling down, and he could have a page or two written in a fool's cap. So he has great belief in it. He's a psychotherapist. What's going on there? I'm just thinking about somebody who has a lot going on in their mind. How can it
Yeah.
be, or what happens?
Okay, so journaling is about self-realization. And the more we know thyself, the more we can deal and create what we want in our life. And we can become more calm and more responsive and more creative. So it's back to, even, we'll say, the likes of Steve Jobs. One of his big things when he died was the book, the Paramahanda Yogananda, that he gave a copy to everybody at his funeral. And that's the self-realization movement in the United States. And that self-realization, when you are above what's known as an energy level of 200, you are able to look at yourself and you're able to see, it's me that's creating this life. It's me that's creating either the response or the reaction. And it's me that has to take charge of everything in my life. And once you start realizing that you are the creator, then you are the one that can direct the show in front of you, which is our life. But if you're underneath that and you don't realize that self realization, we are in the victim format of, why does life happen to me? Why did that bill come to me? We take things personally. We take things personally what other people say. We take life as the victim when you're underneath it. But when you are in the self-realization, it's like, bring it on. Life happens, death happens, finances happen, along with all the good stuff. So you deal with everything in just a more harmonized way.
I'm kind of intrigued now with this 200 thing. So you were saying if you're above 200, it's kind of good, and if you're below it, it's kind of not so good, or there's room for improvement. How do we know where we're at?
Okay. So this comes from a doctor who's passed away in the United States, also David Hawkins. And he did a vibrational scale of our energy emotions. And a critical point is the 200 level of where it's called courage. And when we hit the 200 level, it's like that self-realization of I can create life. Or if we're underneath it, it's like, why does life happen to me? So underneath the 200 lies negative emotions. So just underneath 200 lies 175, which is pride. So pride goeth before a fall. So pride is the big one that we are like, I don't have a problem. There's nothing wrong with me. That's why in the likes of, we'll say AA, you stand up and you say, I'm an alcoholic. You have to get over the pride, because if you need to be change in your life, you have to realize that the problem is here. I am the creator of it. That's why you have to own it. So underneath it is pride. And if we never get over the pride, then we're not really in the zone of that change, that critical self-realization. Underneath pride, 175 would be 150, which is anger. Anger, there's a lot of energy and emotion in anger. Anger is very negative, but anger can be harnessed into using the energy into positive when you realize you're in an angry state. So, as I do say, when I'm angry, I try and go to my room and clear out my closet, go to the car. I use it to clean, I re energize it. Okay. Underneath that, fear is 100. Fear is a very big one that keeps a lot of people in society down, and it's a very negative energy. But a lot of us don't realize when we're in fear that it's keeping us down. It's like we can't, step out of the comfort zone. If you want to change the job, you want to relocate, you want to ask someone out on a date, fear holds us down, and it's a negative energy. And the only way we can break through fear is to actually do the thing that we're afraid of. So if you want to learn how to swim, you have to get in the water. You're not going to learn it from reading a book. So that's fear. And then it goes down right into shame, apathy, depression, goes right down the scale. So these are all the negative energy emotions that lie underneath that 200, that self-realization. And then above it would be love is 500. It's massive, because love is literally the cure for our health, for everything. Love is a state of euphoria. When we're in love, we have the rose-tinted glasses and everything is wonderful. So that's that scale that comes from Dr. David Hawkins that I teach, and he has a fantastic book called Letting Go, and it teaches you how to work through those emotions when they're in the negative, because we have to learn not to suppress them. Because when we suppress a negative emotion, then it's just pushed down, and later on will cause, all sorts of diseases and in the body, because they want to come back up, and that they manifest up into all sorts of, your arthritis, and they attack all of your organs when you suppress your negative emotions. That's why it's very important to talk things out in counseling, and to deal with things, to get all that negative emotions out. Because we're all energy, so what you're doing then is you're clearing what's your chakras. And once you clear all that negative energy, it allows for the spirit, your energy, to flow through you, and to manifest when you're in the self-realization, to know that we are the creator of our own life, because we're creative beings. It's like the creative process, like the seed in the soil. Like your thought is a seed that you sow into your subconscious mind, and it grows after its kind. So if you sow seeds of love, joy, peace, happiness, success, then that's what you're going to manifest into your life. But if you're sowing seeds of jealousy, anger, hatred, people that have hurt us, this is what I deal with to teach people how to forgive, how to just unblock and work through them and realize that we need to come up to this 200.
Yeah, it's no, it's fascinating. In terms of the environment that people grow up in, and some people are going to grow up in quite difficult and challenging times, that of course is going to affect where they are at. So even for those individuals, the realization that you have some degree of control over your thinking, that you can actually help reduce the noisy mind. You can help bring balance to the autonomic nervous system. You can improve your sleep quality, and you're in a better position mentally then to achieve whatever you put your attention on. Is that what you're? So I'm just thinking about, because I remember talking about breathing, and of course I'd be bringing in mindfulness, and I was working a lot with people with anxiety and panic disorder, and this is going back about 15 years ago. And one of the individuals says, yeah, he says, you're happy because you've got a job that you actually love. I hate my job. And at the time, I didn't know really what to say to him.
Mhm.
And I can kind of get it, and I understand it totally from his perspective too. So can you just kind of just broad, I'm just thinking about somebody who's really stuck in a situation in their environment, and they're feeling, okay, where do I start with this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really get that. And I get that if if you're born into a place that's chaotic, and what can you do about it? You say, this is it. This is where I am. How can I do? But the beauty about this is that we can control our thoughts. And when we can control our thoughts and start focusing on where we want to get, then we can get up into the energy to change the circumstances, to get where we want to go. And it all starts with our thoughts and just what you're teaching your breathing. And you can learn how to calm down. Then you're even more in control of the thoughts because you're in that nice calm state that you are able to say, okay, I'm going through this at the moment, but I know where I'm going to get, and it's going to get out of here, and I'm going to get out of the next job, and I'm going to be nicer. And this is where gratitude, Pat, plays a big part of it. Because even when you're in that circumstance and it's like it's not where you want to be, you flip it around and you say, okay, what can I be grateful for today? You know what? I can be grateful for my health. I have my full health and I know I'm going to be able to work through this. I can be grateful for the, the warm house I have. I can be grateful for that I had hot water this morning. I can be grateful for that I have a car that runs. I can be grateful for that I can get to work on time. So we start building on the small things that we're grateful for because this now is connecting the law of attraction and positivity into our life, and it brings more and it brings that focus. And when you start seeing that you can literally bring yourself out of this through your thinking and through your mind and through focus, you will get to where you're going.
Do a lot of people go through life and they don't even kind of put it out there? So say again, somebody, irrespective of age, but maybe just somebody starting off in their 20s, it's almost as if they go into a revolving wheel, and they don't really, what would you suggest with that person? In other words, you talked about it's a thought and then it manifests, the thought is the seed. But if people don't actually put the thought out there, why might that be, and what should they do?
The people who don't realize this, they just end up being drifters, and they end up being literally guided by other people's opinions and ideas of you should do this or you should go do that, and they end up in these like-minded situations, like people who are maybe younger that get into like drugs, or people who are younger end up in drinking, and they don't really know where they're going. But people will say who are like the unfortunate thing about all of this is that it's not taught in our schools. Like it should be mandatory. You know, I was so surprised myself when I started discovering the power of this and the power of the why this is so important. Like I remember reading Norman Vincent Peale's book years ago on the power of positive thinking. And after reading the book, I still didn't know why it was so important to have positive thinking. But now I know with the research, thankfully, with Dr. David Hawkins and but even Einstein said that we're all energy, is because that positive thought is bringing more positive energy into your life, and it's like this is the manifestation of it. We should everybody should be aware of this, and it's just unfortunate. But as I said, when we're not, we end up. I remember Napoleon Hill, one of his books. He said you end up being a drifter, that you just drift along with the crowd. And it's until like that. That's why Steve Jobs wanted the mass populations to understand the self-realization that we are the creators of our own life. We are the directors of it. Shakespeare wrote about it. All the greats write about it. But yet, our education system doesn't teach us about it.
Mm. Our education system, though, was kind of developed, I think, industrial revolution for children and to become, I don't know if the word docile is the important word, but um, to go into the factory system to be civil servants and things like that. Napoleon Hill, if I can remember his quote, he said, whatever the mind can conceive, man can achieve, or something to that effect. So my thoughts then are coming in terms of, is it all about positive thinking, or is it also important to have to bring a stillness to the mind? So say, for example, if people are thinking, say if we're feeling really negative about ourselves, and then I'm start saying to myself, I should be feeling positive, but I can't feel positive and I can't start thinking positive because I'm feeling so negative. But then what happens is I start giving out to myself. I'm feeling crap, but I should be feeling good. And when I try to be positive about it and I can't, I'm failing, now it's making me feel worse. Is there a different step? Is there something, so if that person is feeling pretty down, is there a step there, instead of just going from down to thinking positive, is there something that should be bridging that gap?
The gap is learning how to do affirmations. That when you're in that negative spiral, that you learn how to do positive affirmations that feels good to you. Because when we do an affirmation, it's in the present tense. It's the seed that the flower is already grown. So when we do an affirmation, it's in the present tense, and it brings us up into that positive feeling. And when you do it over and over, like all is well, all is working out for my highest good, out of this situation, only good will come. And then there's other ones for even with money. When I was in over 7 million of debt, I learned the Joseph Murphy ones of God is the source of my supply. All my needs are met at every moment of time and point of space. I give thanks for God's riches forever circulating in my experience. And I did that over and over and over. And it's with repetitiveness that we're able to reprogram our subconscious mind, and that brings us out. So when you are in that downward spiral, you learn your affirmations, you learn that it's going to be okay, and it just will bring you up. And the gratitude, these small things, the just the calm breathing to bring us down, so it's going to be okay. And literally, God is the source of our supply, and you can call it Buddha, you can call it power, you can call it universe, whatever you want. There is a power there. These universal laws, they are always with us. They're always listening. They're like gravity, but don't take a day off.
For people in a higher vibrational capacity, if that's the right word, do they feel it in their body? Do they feel that energy? Is there something that they kind of sense, that there's a lot of kind of electricity
Yeah,
or something?
yeah. You'll see them, they'll be on a high vibes. You can tell a person's in a high vibration. They walk in, they stand tall, they're happy. You can feel it because it's in the atmosphere. The same way you can feel if someone is down. You can feel it. Music, when you put on music, you start feeling good. You're getting into a high vibration. So our energy fluctuates during the day as well. So we're not stuck in one or the other. Like we could be in a great mood and you get that bill in the door and now you're angry. So now your vibration's down. You know what I mean? So what we do then is we learn how to push these good habits in place, and we learn to literally to love and respect our own body. So as well, it starts off, it's the domino effect when you start doing it. If you start your affirmations, your gratitude, your meditation, the quiet mind in the morning, and then you start looking and you say, oh, you know what, I want to lose a few pounds. You eat healthy food, it's a higher, a better energy. Low processed food is negative energy. You watch your words. I teach the power of our words. You veer away then from, you know, bad language, negative talk, and literally you move up, and people on high vibes are surrounded by people on high vibes because like attracts like. It's no coincidence that wealthy people live in the same areas because they are all attracted. It's no coincidence that people in jail are all in the same area because they're all thinking the same thing. So we attract to what our vibrational energy is given out there.
Does it take much work?
In the beginning, it's like everything, it's a habit. And it's like going to the gym, Pat. If you can do it for a while and then people kind of fall off it again, and then you kind of realize, oh, I stopped doing that, and how come things are not going that right? So then they start it again. So what I always recommend is make time for yourself during the day, either morning, midday, or in the evening. It depends on what type of person. If I'm a morning lark, so I start at 6 a.m. Some people are night owls. They want to do it late at night. But either or, when you start making time for yourself and you start seeing that this works, then you will start putting more energy into yourself, because the more time and energy you put into yourself, the better life you're going to create. So it's like, why be busy running around doing 10, 12 hours work, but you won't give yourself 10 minutes in the morning to do an affirmation, a meditation, gratitude. And as you get into it, you build on the habit and it just becomes that it's like normal part of everyday life. And when you start seeing the results and start living it, it's like you don't want to give it up.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's actually very like breathing. It's very similar in terms of what we, what we espouse to, bring it into your way of life, and then you have it for life. And I think it's a
Mm.
tremendous tool. I like that point. We don't give ourselves enough attention. And it's almost that society is making sure that we don't give ourselves enough attention because everything is taking our attention. And even 15 years on now, in comparison to 2010, we've got more distractions now than we had back then. So it's really for people then to kind of make a commitment if they wish to manifest, to put the time aside, just maybe formally at the start. So instead of spending so much time on their mobile phone, even to close their eyes, bring their attention inwards, put their attention onto the breath, take a soft breath in through the nose, have a slow, relaxed breath out, breathe light, breathe slow, breathe deep, do all of that. Little things that we can bring into our way of life. Is there any difference between ages? Is the information always the same?
The information is the same. What I find with it is people, I think, who are more mature are more drawn to it than younger people. But that could be just a cultural thing. I'm not, like, maybe in India and Japan, I've been told they're more in tune with the spiritual work and the more, in tune with things. So it could be a Western culture thing that we're just not as much in tune with it. So what I find from my experience of teaching it is that certainly more mature people, like 30s up, seem to be more in tune with it. There seems to be a bigger disbelief, I think, in younger people, but not all of them, because manifestation it's very connected with materialistic, very connected with, the big car and the big house. And I see my daughter with a lot of, labels, designers. you know, so manifestation is kind of connected with a lot of that, which is unfortunate because manifestation is really a way of life where you learn how to to use the laws to create. You become a better person when you start as well realizing that karma is everything, that everything we give out comes back, and that includes from our thoughts, our words, our actions, everything. The kinder you are, the more kindness life will bring back into you. And if we're cruel and not kind and whatever, then that's what life brings back as well.
That's point about, because I can understand the tendency for people to say, I want to have a nice car. I want to have a nice house. Would it be bad for them to have that as a goal and they're manifesting towards that?
No, absolutely. Of course, materialistic things are, you know, especially if we need a bigger house or we need, you know, a bigger car if we have bigger families or we, you know, it's not a bad thing. But, and it works in that as well. That you can manifest the car. It will come to you when you put your attention and energy and focus on it. It will come. But it's just that when you realize that there's a bigger picture with this, that these laws of the universe are so connected that you will actually start changing and becoming the better person when you realize how to work in harmony with it.
So what you're saying
Yes.
is, if it's going to happen, it will happen, but it will happen out of your ulterior purpose. It will happen more naturally without you having to strive for it. I'm just thinking, when I started university, it was something I really worked towards getting into, because I left school initially at 14 and went back, 14 years of age, and then I went back. And when I get into university, of course, in Ireland, there's point system and things like that. So it's quite a struggle to get into university. It's a lot more difficult now than it was 30 years ago. I felt I sacrificed 4 years towards getting to the future, that I wasn't having my attention on what I was doing. I was constantly racing to the future. So again, that's not where we're at in terms of setting goals. I think it would be good to make the point that to set our goal and to achieve our, you know, our higher purpose, whatever we can achieve in life. Because I think setting goals is really important. We learn about ourselves, but to be able to hold our attention on the doing, to be able to hold our attention on the now, and not to be constantly rushing to the future. And that's a tendency when we're young. And I suppose that's something in terms of your goal setting as well. Is it something that's quite common in people? They set a goal, but they sacrifice everything, not just because they're working so hard to get to that goal, but it's their mental energy is constantly in the future, and they're not putting enough attention on what they are doing to achieve the goal in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you should be detached from the outcome because we only ever have today. Tomorrow has never come. So this brings it back again to starting your day well and starting that gratitude and being happy for what you have right now and learning your affirmations and the quiet mind and the meditation, because this is all we have. And I like to describe today like the anchor, you know. So if it's the anchor, if you're in the past, you're too much back there, you're off. And if you're in the future, you're too much over there. So we need to be like an anchor straight down. We're in the now because tomorrow has never come. Yesterday is history. So we learn and when you learn to live in the now and enjoy the moment, and I like young people, it's how do we teach them that? This is something that we have to go through, you know. Again, I think it's a cultural thing that we tend to want be over there. Whereas if meditation and your breathing, and we could teach them to be today, it'd be just wonderful to see society to learn that this is all we have is right now.
Oh, it would be tremendous. Like, it would solve
Mm,
mental health issues. I'm not necessarily going to
mm,
say solve, but it would certainly help, significantly help them. You know, we've
yeah.
missed the very fundamentals of the human mind. We are not
Mm,
able to stop thinking. And
mm,
it's not that we are thinking for practical purposes. That's fine. It's the time that we spend in rumination with the noise
yeah.
that's going on in the mind. And we're not even dealt with that. You know, we spent 13 years in formal education and we don't have the capacity to be able to bring a quietness to the mind. I just have one final question. You used the word control the mind. I'm just wondering, is there an easier way to kind of, it's not about forcing the mind to stop thinking, but what you're saying more is kind of creating space in between thoughts, or can I pass that back to you?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Observing of the mind and observing of the thoughts. And when you learn to observe them, of, what am I thinking right now, and literally to write down during the day, stop, nearly like, prayer time in the morning, in midday, in the evening. What were my thoughts? And the journaling. And when you learn about your observing your thoughts, and then you can change them then once you observe and know that they're there, and then that's the control of it. Then if you learn to flip it, because you observe them, and it's having as well that mindfulness and that calmness of the response, that you see it coming,
So it's observing your thinking so that you know yourself a little bit more, and then the realization of the impact that your thinking is having on how you feel and how your feeling is feeding back into it. And then when you realize that we're not really helping ourselves, how do we help to bring a quietness to the mind, bring our attention onto the breath, soften the breath and tell the brain that we're safe, and take it from there. Nicola, I think it's going to be a fascinating conversation for people to listen to, and that's genuine. Manifestation is something that I have had a small little interest in over the 30 years.
Good.
And I think it's tremendous that we do set goals, and I think it's tremendous that we know we're going there, and to help to reach our full potential. I think it's really important. A lot of people don't have purpose in life, but that comes back to the questions that we asked earlier on. Do people put the question out there? And maybe it is because of fear. And what I would say to people is, if you do have fear, there is dip your toes into the water. It's all about, and if you feel that your environment is holding you back, move towns. Because very often, if you're in a small village, especially somewhere in Ireland, you can have a group of individuals and they will hold you back. And that there's a tendency to do that. And sometimes for a person, the best thing that they can do is get out of their environment and go into some place that's absolutely new, where nobody has a preconceived idea of them, and that they can start afresh according to who they are, as opposed to who the people in the village want them to be. I think we have to have that certain freedom there, and we do have it. For people who are looking to want more about what you do, how can they find you?
So you'll find me on NicolaO'Neill.com, and every Thursday at 1 o'clock, I run a free 20-minute manifestation talk on the laws that we just spoke about, the laws of the mind, universal laws, forgiveness. And, everybody, please welcome to join anytime it suits you. And I also run then 6-week courses as well, Pat, but you'll get all the information on NicolaO'Neill.com.
Okay, so Nicola O'Neill, so that's ONEIL.com.
Double L.
Right. Sorry, we
Yeah.
better say that one again. Nicola ONEILL.com.
That's
Great.
it.
Great. Pleasure.
Thank you very much, Pat. Really appreciate it. It's been, a lovely conversation.
Great stuff. All good. Thanks, Nicola.
Thanks, Pat.